Wait. Don't skip this if you're a parent. Let me tell you that you should listen to our podcast, Let Kids Play Podcast. Why? Because our children are lacking creativity and problem solving skills. On this podcast, we laugh, we have special guests, we talk about the traditional and homeschooling needs, and give you tips and hacks and things like that to enhance your experience of teaching your little ones under 5 years old. You can find the Let Kids Play podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Are you looking for inspiration on a daily basis? Well, check out Deal to Heal Tees. With our inspirational tees, you're sure to find something that will inspire you. Just go to dealtohealtees.myshopify.com. That's Deal to Heal Tees. Get some inspiration in your situation. Wear inspirational tee and be inspired all day. That's Deal to Heal Tees at dealtohealtees.myshopify.com. Hi guys, if you're enjoying this podcast, then I know you'll enjoy the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. I'm your host, Earnest James. And on my podcast, my guests and I discuss topics and ways to help us to heal in every area of our lives. I believe that everyone can and should live a life that is whole, healed, and healthy. And therefore, I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with their problems, heal from the pain, and to fulfill their purpose. So check out our podcast. We're on Google Podcasts, Spotify, or even on Audible. And if you want to watch the podcast, check us out on our YouTube channel at Deal to Heal with E. James Podcast. Until then, see you soon. Welcome to the Girl Dad Discussions podcast with E. James. We believe that the relationship between a dad and daughter is one of the most important relationships in a woman's life. Our mission is to promote the daddy-daughter relationship by spreading the voices of girl dads to the world and give love and support to all of our dads and their daughters. Let's get to it. Let's tune in. All right. Welcome to the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. I am your host, Earnest James, and we believe that the relationship between a father and daughter is one of the most important relationships in a woman's life. And therefore, our mission is to promote the daddy-daughter relationship by spreading the voices of girl dads to the world and give love and support to all of our dads and their daughters. Thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. If you haven't already, make sure you listen, like, subscribe, and share. Make sure you follow us on all of our social media pages and at the Girl Dad Discussions podcast and everywhere where you listen to your podcast. Also, make sure you subscribe to our podcast on our YouTube channel. We share a YouTube channel with our partner podcast, the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. And actually now we have a new channel, which is the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network, right? That is our new YouTube channel. It's the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network, because you can find the Girl Dad Discussions podcast there. You can find the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast there. And we also have 2 other podcasts that's in production, as well as some more that's to come. So we are officially a podcasting network and not just one single podcast. So make sure you go to the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network on YouTube in order to watch our podcast. And also, I'm going to tell you guys how you can win $100 from the podcast, but you have to stay until the end of the episode in order to get that information, which I know you will, because we have amazing episodes. So make sure you guys stay to the end of the episode. So this week we are our product of the week. So as you guys know, We are a self-sustained podcast, and the way that we stay on the air is by bringing you amazing products to purchase that support the podcast. So our product of this week is our Purpose Journal and our Purpose Planner, which are both available on Amazon. You guys will see the links in the description where you can get that. I believe that we should journal in order to make sure that we record where we've been in our lives and where we are now, and then also to plan for where we want to go into the future. So we got our journal, our purpose, because we're doing everything with purpose. So our purpose journal and our purpose planner, both of those are available on Amazon, and the links will be in the description of the show so that you guys can get those products in order to give us your support. All right, so today, just like any other day, we are blessed with the guest, Mr. Nate. How you doing?
I'm fine, Ernest. And yourself?
I am well. I am well. First of all, let me say thank you for being on, because could have been doing anything else with anyone else, but you're here with me and my listeners, and I definitely appreciate it. And I wanted to let you know that up front.
Thank you for having me.
No problem, no problem. I love having these conversations with dads. And so I'm gonna jump right in it, right? So Nate, do me a favor, introduce yourself to my listeners and let us know a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do.
You know, that in itself is an interesting question, Ernest, because usually when someone says, tell us who you are, right? Most people start rattling off a bunch of titles and positions.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a abundance of those, right? I should have mine up there: podcast, speaker, best-selling author. I got that whole list of things, but that's not who I am. Those are just things that I do. So, in sharing with your office who I am love and I am compassion. I am a leader who operates out of confidence and integrity. And that shows up in all aspects of my life.
All right, all right. And so for this particular project that we're talking about right now, you're also a girl dad, right? so, so that is the main reason why we're here to talk about our daughters. So first of all, first question I want to ask you, because I always forget to ask you. I jump right into the conversation with our dads, and I always forget to ask, what is your daughter's name, right? Because we be talking about our daughters and we never even mention who they are.
Amaris.
Amaris. All right, all right. So I hope that she's listening and or maybe even listen later. I'd love to, tell our fathers to make sure, hey, have your daughter listen to it, man, because a lot of times we have discussions that sometimes we share things that may be good for them to hear, but we never actually take out the time to have those discussions with them. And so I always say, hey, check, have your daughters check it out. They might like it. Let's jump right in. So first question I want to ask you is, what does it mean for you personally to be a girl dad?
I have a pretty unique story that's different from most people. My daughter is not my biological daughter.
Mm-hmm.
I dated someone about 35, 40 years ago. And her niece was 2 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And some things went awry with in their family. And I ended up adopting and taking Amaris in, and we chose each other.
Right.
And a lot of people say, I can't believe you took somebody else's child and raised them. And I said, no, that's my child. And I treat her accordingly. That's my daughter. So it's not it's a little different than most guys who have their biological daughters, but It's all the same because we're together and we've chosen to be together.
Right. And I'm glad you said that. And this is something that I share because I'm a stepdad as well as a dad. Right. So my daughter is actually my only biological child. Right. And so I have 4 stepsons too. But I always like to point out, especially the step parents, if you want to call them that, or adoptive parents, because we choose to take on someone else's child, which in some cases I would say that makes us even more of a parent. You know what I mean? Because anyone can say, I ain't gonna say anyone, some people can, take on the responsibility of their own child, whether they planned that child or was surprised by it. You know what I mean? And be like, all right, well, this is my responsibility, so I have to do it. But when you choose to take on the responsibility of a life and of a child and give them your love and your respect and your admiration and everything that they need, I think there's a special place for adoptive parents and step parents, because we made the choice, even when we didn't have to. We could have easily be like, nope, that ain't my child, that ain't my situation, and walk away from it. But we made the choice in order to stand there and said, you know what, I'm standing this gap anyway, because we as fathers, as we know, we're needed. And just because you're not the biological father of a child, don't mean you can't be a father to that child. And we all know what happens when a child is left fatherless. So sometimes, for whatever reason that the father isn't or could not be, in his rightful place, there are those of us who decide that we will stand up and take that place. So I applaud you on that, and taking on that responsibility, and I think that's even more interesting, because that definitely is different, right?
Yeah.
It definitely is different. So again, so let's go back to the original question. That being said, you are still a girl dad, you're still a father.
Yes.
So that being said, what does it mean? And I would think that probably even have more meaning to you, to be a girl dad, because of the circumstances under which you became a girl dad.
Well, I guess it to be able to have someone and change their life,
Mm-hmm.
and in the process of changing their life, they change your life. And that's what happened with us. It was a give and take situation. I helped her, but she also helped me. Um, and I think that's the most meaningful part of it, right? Because I also I grew up in Baltimore City in the
Mm-hmm.
foster care system, so I knew it was like not to have my parents there. And I always wished it was like, oh, my rich relative's gonna come and just pull me out of this
Mm-hmm.
craziness, and which
Yeah.
never happened, right? Um, and the ironic thing is, as I went through the process, I became that rich relative or rich friend that came back to pull her out of it, right? So you
Mm-hmm.
become what it is that you want, or whatever it is that you seek, you become it, so that you could fulfill the purpose, right? So and in doing that, I completely changed her life, but she completely changed my life, because I was able to now understand some of the things that my mom went through. My mom is, God bless her, she's been dead 11 years now, a little over 11 years. But we had a turbulent relationship until the end. I would say the last 2 or 3 years we got along well, because we reached the point where we accepted each other as adults and had
Mm-hmm.
an adult relationship. But one of the things I noticed with my daughters, teenagers, there were times I wanted to put her in a cage somewhere. Um, but when she said and did some of the things that she said and did, it hit me one day. My mom was this old when she had my brother,
Mm.
and then she was this old when she had me. She was in essence a child herself,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So that by having my daughter, that put some things in perspective for me about my mom, right?
Yeah.
So it's a matter of just looking at where the dots are and then connecting them. So she's just raising her has been very meaningful for me.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that we forget sometimes as parents. We forget that we were children, and like my daughter's going to be 21, and so even though I didn't have her till I was 25 or something like that, but when you think about parents who do have children young, and sometimes those children grow up and they look at their parents like you should have done better. I remember talking to my brother actually, and him telling me about, his son, because he did start having kids early. He's 1 year younger than me, but he started way before I started, having kids. But we were having a conversation, and he was talking about having a conversation with his sons, and them who are adults, young adults now, telling him, well, Dad, I think you could have did this better. You could have did that better and that. And he told them, he was like, dude, I was younger than you when I had you. I was younger than you are right now when I had you, and you haven't done the things that you're telling me that I should have done when I was younger than you. You know what I mean? It's just like you're in your 20s and you're saying I should have done this, and this when I started having kids at 16. You know what I'm saying? So how can you say I could have done better when you haven't even done what I've done? And you're older than what I was when I had you. But I think that sometimes we as adults, even us as adults, forget that our parents were children too. And sometimes when they had us, like you said, they were still children. So they were growing with us and learning with us. And sometimes we forget, especially when we have our own kids, but then it's like, well, you should have been able to do, whatever, or you should have taken this approach. But the reality of it is, their reality wasn't necessarily our reality, and so, that's.
And for my daughter, when I'm raising her, I told her, because we talked all the time, and I said, by the time you turn 15, you're gonna meet boys, and life is gonna change for us. Oh, life will never change. You always be my dad, my best friend, and that. Oh man, 15 and a half hit, and boys kicked in, and the devil came out. But the point is that we look at things from our own perspective, based on whatever cycle of life that we're in.
Mm-hmm.
So, she thought I was everything in the world until she turned about 15 and a half, 16. Then I was the dumbest man on the planet. And then when she got to like 25, 26 years old, she came back and she was like, I'm so appreciative of all those things that you did and that you said to me that I said you were mean about. Yeah. So you just got to go through the wherewithal to get through the cycle of what's happening and where they are in their lives, as well as where, you are in your life or where I am in my life,
Yeah. And one of the things I'm also glad that you brought it up. You mentioned it because it's actually one of the questions that I was going to ask you anyway, which is in what ways have your daughter taught you something? Because we're always, as fathers, we're teaching them as they grow. It's like, all right, we're installing in them, but at the same time, we're learning too. We're learning from them, and there are aspects of ourselves that learn to change, or we learn to tweak, by interacting with our daughter. So what is something, even in your life, that you was like, you know what, if it wasn't for her, I probably wouldn't have done this, or, may have taken a different route, but this is something just in raising her that I learned about myself that I was like, yeah, I need to change that.
I think the biggest thing may have been, I was pretty astute business person. I thrived in Korea. But the skill set that you learn and that you develop in the professional arena is a different skill set than in the family situation. And if I didn't raise her, I'd have probably been a nightmare for whoever I was dating or married to or whatever, because she gave me that balance that was needed, that feminine present. And I'm like, why are you this? And she'll cry, and I'm like, what are you crying for? But I got to see that emotional side in her, express her feelings, et cetera, so forth, and watch her grow into her independence. And that helped me with my emotions and my softer side. And I think that made me a better person. A better rounded person.
Yeah. And I always say, and you can tell me your thought on this too, but I remember, I always say this, and I remember recently doing a speaking at a daddy-daughter event that I was a part of, and talking to the fathers at that event. And so one of the things that I said was, oftentimes we don't realize that our daughter changes us, right? And sometimes that changes for the better. And I talked about that a lot of times as dads, we always want our sons, right? We want our sons, but sometimes God says, no, I'm not going to give you a son because I want you to change. Because if we had sons, then we would teach our sons to be exactly who we are, the good and the bad. But when we have daughters, it's like, okay, I'm only going to give them the best part of me, right? And so as we begin to teach them the best parts of ourselves, it begins to make us change, right? So I'll give you an example. Well, I had a dad having a conversation with him and telling him that same thing. And he was like, you know what? I definitely agree with you 100% because he was like, I used to be deep in the street, right? Like I was in those streets. And I used to always say, man, I want a son. So he'll be just like me, right? And I'll take him wherever I go. And, it'd be like my little mini me. He was like, but I had a daughter instead. And so in raising my daughter, I realized some of the places that I was going, I didn't want to take my daughter to those places.
Mm-hmm.
And so I stopped going to those places. And so as I raised her more, I realized that I didn't even care to be in those places anymore. Now I was only interested in places where that I wanted to take her and I wanted to expose her to. So it basically changed his whole mindset to say, you know what, forget those streets. I'm going to look into these places and these things so that I'm protecting my daughter, number one, but also exposing her to new things. And in that same vein, while I'm exposing her to new things, I'm changing. You know what I mean? So he didn't even realize how much he was changing until he stopped back and looked at it. Was like, yeah, because if I had a son, you know what I mean?
Right.
We
Yeah.
both would have probably been deep in the street and it wouldn't have worked out. But I do think that God does that for some of us who need those changes, right? Who need to make some changes. And he said, you know what? I know you want a son, but I need to give you a daughter because I need you to change. And sometimes that change is like so necessary. And when we get those daughters, we begin to change a little bit of ourselves for the better. Like they like bring out the best parts of us.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. And that's where my love and compassion comes from, having a daughter.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. So I asked this question, and this is kind of a two-part question, right? And so the first question I ask is, what do you feel is one of your biggest accomplishments as being a girl dad?
I think completely changing my daughter's destiny. So my daughter, her and her first cousins, there were three of them, and knew them from 2 years up older, and they were the three amigos. They hung out, they did everything together. Used to always come over to the house, and one, it was interesting because one was destined to be a nurse or doctor. The other one, she was just there. What she was going to be, whatever she was going to be. And then Amaris, I didn't know what was going to become of her. So long story short, out of the three of them, she's the one that has become most successful and that contributes to society. Actually, one has passed away from drugs. The other one is struggling with drugs. But by removing her from that environment and those environmental influencers, that changed her life drastically. And she went. She did some things that she shouldn't have done, and we had our words about it. And but she put herself through school because she said and did some things, which I'm not going to say, but because I don't want to embarrass her in any way. But typical teenager stuff, right? And it's like, you can't be disrespectful in your home to me. And if you do, here's what the consequences are.
Right, exactly.
I drew the line, right?
Right.
And being the person that she is, the fiery person, she crossed every line. So one of the lines that she crossed was, you just messed up your education. You now have to put yourself through school. And it wasn't that bad. What she said to me was, if you can go to college from the foster care system and make it on your own, I can do it too. I don't need your money. And my response was, okay. So
Right.
so she ended up having to work to put herself through college. But she worked. Not only did she work and put herself through college, she put herself through law school. And once she got to law school, I helped her. It was
Mhm.
college that I was like, I'm staying firm here. You're going to do this because that's what you said.
Yeah.
When she got to law school, I helped her some, but she really did it herself. She put herself through law school, became an attorney. She's a strategic political analyst today. She in November she got cleared as an attorney to make arguments before the U.S. Supreme Court, which there are very few people that can do that, let
Mhm.
alone a woman of color and
Right.
being a woman. Um,
Right.
so you know she was destined to be where her other two cousins were, and she completely changed her life and went in a total different direction.
Amazing, amazing. I love that story. And then it's crazy because it kind of full circle, like you said, growing up in a foster system yourself and waiting for that person to come pull you out, and then you actually becoming that to her, and then to see even where she went from that position. Because a lot of times that's what we all need. We just need a good starting point, and that's why our step parents and foster parents, adoptive parents, that's why we're so important, as well as biological parents. But we're so important because when that biological parent can't be there for whatever reason, that child still needs that foundation to launch from.
Yeah,
And so when those of us who step in to be those parents, to provide that foundation for them to launch from, and then to see how far they go from that foundation is just
and,
amazing. So
she would always say to me, I want to be just like you. I want to be as successful as you are." And even as a child, I told her, "No, you want to do better than me, and
yeah.
I want to see you do better than me." And
Yeah.
she's just exploded. I mean, she's 33 years old, and she's at the top of her career. It's like, that's fantastic.
Amazing, amazing. All right, all right. So the flip side of that question, right, is
Yes.
what do you think would be your greatest regret or something that you could have done differently? And the reason why I asked this question, because in my own experience, um, I remember when my daughter was little, she had her first daddy daughter dance, and which I was very excited about on one hand, because that is always something I wanted to do with her, was to take her to the daddy daughter dance. But this particular night that they were having it, I had to work. And so I said, well, I'll miss this one and I'll catch the next one. And like I said, my daughter's going to be 21. There never was a next one, and so I missed that opportunity. And, over the years, we've had other things and other engagements and dances and all of those things.
Mhm.
So, that we've had other experiences. But to me, because I don't even think it bothers her, you know what I mean? Like she's like, yeah, whatever. But for me as a dad, I still hold that space in my heart, like that one thing, like, man, I shouldn't have missed that, you know so that's why I would ask, and it's because one of the things I want to do with this platform is to make sure that we're leaving our dads and our daughters not only with our experiences, but definitely with something that they can take away, from our experiences to help them in their journey. And so I share my story of not taking that time as a reminder to dads, like, hey, make sure you take advantage of those experiences when you get the chance,
Mhm.
because they don't stay little forever. You know what I mean? And if you miss them, you might not get another chance. And so I share that. And so, in that same vein, what would be something, if anything, that you would think about and say, you know what? When I think about it, I probably could did this differently. You know?
Yeah, I was pretty active. Like, I was pretty active in her life and go to her dancing and ice skating and all the different events and stuff that she was in. So I made time to do those things. I couldn't do all of them, but I made time to go to them. Um, I, I, I don't know if this qualifies for an answer for your question, but I think that if I had to do it over, I
Mhm.
would not have given her as much
Mhm.
as I did.
Yeah.
She had everything. Because and I'm a baby boomer, right? I'm
Right.
at the end of the baby boomers, and our group grew up with the struggles that we had and not having, and we're like, well, we're going to do better so that our kids can have everything that we didn't have. And in retrospect, that's not, in my opinion, that's not good.
Right.
Um, there are things that she got that she probably, if I had applied some of the things that were applied to me, like, you're gonna have, like, I gave her a Trans Am for her 16th birthday, and she didn't really appreciate it.
Hmm.
But if she had to do what I did, you got to work to get your own first
Right.
car. At least you got to
Yeah.
come up with half of it, you know. So
Right.
I think if there was something there, I would be to not give as much as I did.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think that's one lesson that we all have to learn, especially as girl dads. Especially as girl dads, we have to learn that lesson because we always want to give them, give them the best. And again, like you said, giving them those things that we didn't have, or not giving them the struggles that we had.
Right.
Even though those same struggles are what has made us who we are,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I think that's one, just as parents across the boards, I think that's one lesson that we all, have to learn is like, okay, yeah, we want to give them so much, but don't take don't take the experiences that will give
Away
them
from
the values. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like they might not have to struggle, but they still should learn how to earn, at least some of the things that they get. So it's not taken for granted. But I definitely understand. I remember I had a Impala, a Chevy Impala that I really liked. It was my work car, but I really liked it. It was nice, it was clean. And when my sons turned 16, I think I gave it to them when they was like 16 or 17. But it was after they got their driver's license or whatever. And the two oldest was around the same age, so they're like a year apart or so. And so I was like, all right, I'm gonna give you guys this car, and I'll just drive my other car. And when I tell you they tore that car up, they tore that car up so bad. They locked the engine up. They had an accident in it. I was just like, I really liked my car. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? But it was just one of those things. Like, all right, the next one you're gonna get on your own. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, so they had to learn those lessons. So yeah, like I said, I think that's one that I think that we all need to learn across the board as parents. Is yes, we want to give them the the things so they don't have to have all the struggle that we had, but at the same time, not taking away some of the struggle that will allow them to gain the values that we have, to learn the work experience and work ethic. What it means to think about a goal and work to accomplish that goal for the things that you want, and the things that you need, so that we're not just like, hey, you want
Yeah.
this, here you go, you want that, here you go, and then we turn around and they like, I want this too, and when you say no, it's like, what do you mean no? That's like a whole another
You know,
thing.
I'll share a funny story with you. My daughter was like 16, and she came in the house, and she I think she was on a date or something. She come in and she sit down and she talked to me about her date. And she goes, it's your job to be here to talk to me when I get home, right? And I said, no, that's not my job. Right. So as she got older and she started her work career, because I worked a lot. I had I was a corporate executive, just a lot of work. She said to me, she says, I got your work ethic. And I said, yeah, I can tell, because every time I call you, you're too busy to talk to me, and I got to make an appointment to talk to you.
Right.
And she goes, no, you can always talk to me. I'm just busy. And I said, don't you know it's your job to be sitting on the couch waiting for me to call you so that when I want to talk, I can talk? But yes, it's they're a joy to have.
All right, all right. I love it. I love it. We're gonna transition real quick into the next part of the program, or the next part of the podcast. which I call the getting to the core segment, right? So the getting to the core segment is a segment that is built off of the four core values, right? From the ebook that I wrote called the four core, which is the it's called the core four, which is the four core values that every daughter should get from her father. And to my listeners, you guys can get your copy of the core four at ebooksbyejames.com. Again, that's ebooksbyejames.com. The core four is there. And there's also a book called From Males to Men, which is sort of a male mentoring program for young boys. And so both of them is there. So you get some for the girls and something for the boys. And there are also some other ebooks that is there also. So go to ebooksbyejames.com in order to get your copy of the core four, which is the four core values that every daughter should get from her father. So that being said, Nate, I sent you a copy of the core four with those values in it. And so for my listeners, those four values that I believe is important values for us as fathers to raise our daughters, those four values is guidance, affirmation, love and affection, and the last one is protection. And now these are not the end all, but these is the foundation. Like when we start with these four, we're doing a good job, and then we can build from there. So Nate, having had a chance to look at the core four, of those four, if you had to choose one that was most important of the four that you instilled in your daughter, which one would that be?
If I had to pick one of the four, oh man, that's a tough question.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say guidance.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say guidance. Even though I want to say protection.
Yeah. I think that's the first one. Just as dads, we usually go that one first, right? Like that's the main one.
Yeah. But I'm gonna go with guidance because I was able to teach her, or at least plant the seeds in her that got her to where she is in her life right now, and helped her to navigate through her journey. Because I can't be there with her all the time.
Right.
So planting those seeds early and giving her guidance at an early age, even when she was out there, on her own, she had those core seeds in her that helped her to, that little voice of mine talking in her head, that helped her navigate through some of the situations to get to where she is today. But that's a tough one because all four of them are important. All four.
Yeah. And I like when I ask the question and the dad kind of gets stumped because it let me know that I did my job, right?
Yeah.
It's like when you got to point, it's like, I really can't choose, but because they all are so important, and I really believe that they are, all very important. And so sometimes we can kind of point to the one that resonates with us, specifically, but then every now and then when you look at it, it's like, yeah, but they all are so important. And so I love it when I have just a dad just to kind of have to really think about it. It's like I can only choose one, So on the flip side of that, Nate, they are the core four values.
Yes.
But if there could be a fifth value that you could add, what would that value be?
Another tough question. I think and see, again, it's a tough one because I'm a certified global empowerment life coach, and I teach from a holistic perspective.
Right.
So there are values that I have that I think that she should have, or that we should instill in our children.
Right.
But it's like how do you pick the one? So if I had to pick the one based off of what I practice and what I teach, I would put spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be clear that that's not religion. I'm not telling somebody
Right.
that they should believe in this and practice this way or that way. I think that people should be connected to understand that there's something greater than themselves
Mm-hmm.
and understand that they fit within um, the universe, right?
Right.
So I would go with spirituality because that is really the crown of who you become. Because, and if it's okay to share this, I'll share
Yeah.
the.
Yeah.
So
100%.
the crown is who are you spiritually, right? Because I believe we're not human beings. I mean, we are, but we're spirits
Mm-hmm.
that were in existence before that took a human a body and will go back to being spirits again. So it's a matter of staying connected to your spirituality or to that source, right? And then from there, everything else falls into place. Health. You got to now take care of your health because, you need the body that we're in.
Right.
You got to take care of your family because your family and your friends are what's that core that helps you to do whatever it is that you're going to do in life, right? So if you're going to,
Mm-hmm.
whatever your career is, you're getting the support from your family and friends. So then that's career. And then finances. And people always say to me, why do you put finances so low? So because if you do these other things, the finances fall in place,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not the emphasis. And that each one that I've shared so far are their own entity, but they're interconnected to each other, right?
Yeah.
So then finances, and then of course community, being involved in the community, and continual education. So I think it's something like for I would just add your four or add mine
Yeah.
to your four and say, hey, here's the gambit. You gotta work on all of this stuff. It's not just
Right.
one size fits all. It's a lot of work that you got to put it in. And I saw one of your shirts that I'm gonna get. I saw it flash across the screen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, what is it? Stop wishing. Uh,
Work. Don't wish work.
don't wish work. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
gonna get one of those because that's what stop the wishing stuff. Do the work.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
the work. Yeah.
Yeah. And I like one of the things that you said, and we're gonna get ready to get out of here. But I like one of the things that you said with money being on the bottom, right? Because I think we put too much emphasis on finances, even though we do need finances, but finance is not the most important thing, right? And I remember listening to a podcast, or maybe it was a video that I saw, and the speaker said that same thing. He was like, "Money is not the most important thing." So he asked the audience. He said, "If I told you that I was going to give you $2 million, would you take it?" And of course, everybody like, "Yeah, of course." He said, "So if I told you that I'll give you $2 million, but you have to die tomorrow, would you take the $2 million?" And it was like, no, I don't think so. And he was like, "Well, then time is worth more than money, you know." And he was like, "So if I told you I'll give you the $2 million, but you had to lose your loved one that's the closest to you, would you give up your loved one for that $2 million?" They said no. He said, "Well, then family is more than money, you know." And so it just those actually putting into that example, like if you can have all the money, but you have to give up certain things that you realize you're not ready to give up for the money, then money really is not that important. You know what I mean? But if
Yeah.
you can have the spirituality, like you said, and you can have the family and the loved ones and all of those things that really do mean something to you, then you will get money as a byproduct. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you're happy. And I think that goes into it too. Your happiness and your fulfillment in your excuse me, in yourself or in your life allows you to do whatever you need to do to make the money, and the money kind of flows with it. But as you as a being, as a person, if you are filled with fulfillment and joy and happiness in the life that you're living, then it's going to spread across the board and touch every aspect of your life.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's millionaires and billionaires that are out there that would trade that money in a heartbeat to live a little longer or to have a healthier life.
Yeah.
people got to put it in perspective. And I think, and this is me on my shoebox. Our society has just lost its direction, and a lot of people are focusing on money because that's what's out there on social media and in the movies, et cetera, so forth. And it's a lie that's being perpetuated out there. And I think that shows like yours, where you're getting people to understand that there's more to life than money and making the people connection, it's fantastic stuff. So keep doing what you're doing. And if I can support you in any way, let me know how, and I'll be glad to do so.
All right, no problem, no problem. So Nate, again, I want to thank you for being on. Thank you for taking out your time to share your story and your expertise and your experience with your raising your daughters. I want you to have the last word, right? And I want you to leave us with some advice for our fathers or even for our daughters, if you feel that way, and also with your social media handles and things like that, so that we can contact you and follow you. And so in support of you as you supported the podcast. So I'll give you a second to think about that. To my listeners, thank you guys once again for tuning in to the the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. I was going to say the Deal to Heal podcast, which is my other podcast. And so thank you guys for tuning in to the Deal to Heal. I was going to say it again. To the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. Make sure that you guys are following us by checking out our websites, our dealhealfulfill.org, which is our main website. That's dealhealfulfill.org is our main website. Make sure you follow us there. Check out our website to see the things that we have going on and information about myself as a speaker, as a podcaster, as an author. Also, information is there. And then also you can see the necessary steps to book me to come out to speak at one of your events, or also to be a facilitator of a workshop that we do. Then also make sure that you check out our inspirational t-shirt line, which is deal, the number 2, healtees.com. That's deal2healtees.com. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear an inspirational tee and be inspired all day. That is our hook. That is our tagline. So make sure you guys go to deal2healtees.com in order to check out our inspirational t-shirt line. And last but not least, you guys can go to ebooksbyejames.com. That's ebooksbyejames.com to make sure that you get your copy of the Core 4, which is we talked about today, which is the Core 4, the 4 core values that every daughter should get from her father. That is there. Also, the ebook From Males to Men is there, which is something that you can use for our sons, information for our sons. And there's also other ebooks there. So you can go to ebooksbyejames.com to check those out. Also, make sure that you're subscribed to our text line, right? Just text the word subscribe to the number 866-326-0730 to receive text messages about new episodes, ebook releases, event information, and other things. You could, again, text the word subscribe to the number 866-326-0730 to receive those text messages. One thing that I'm very proud about, I've been able to be a part of an organization called the Forgiveness Mission. And one of the things that we do, we have free virtual workshops every quarter of the year. And we discuss forgiveness of self, forgiveness of others, what it is, what it's not, what it means to forgive. And I think it's a very important conversation that we need to have. So you guys can take part in those free virtual workshops. Again, we have them every quarter. Just go to forgivenessmission.com in order to check those out and register for the free virtual workshop. Remember, whenever you're listening to this podcast, either one just ended or there's one coming up. So again, that's forgivenessmission.com, where you can register to take part in our free virtual workshop. You can take it on your phone or you can take it on your laptop, either or you also can go to Eventbrite and look up Forgiveness Workshop in order to register for our free forgiveness workshop. Last but not least, I told you guys that I would tell you how you can win $100 from the podcast. You can win $100 from the podcast by entering our super subscriber contest. What does that mean? That means you must first subscribe to our YouTube channel to our Facebook page, and to our podcast on Spotify. And then text the word WIN, WIN, to the number 866-326-0730 to qualify to win $100. The contest is ongoing and is random, which means once you're in, you can always win. You don't never have to re-up. Just make sure when you text the word WIN, WIN, to the number 866-326-0730 that you also leave your contact information so that we can contact you to notify you if you are our next $100 winner. That being said, Mr. Nate, once again, I want to say thank you for being on. Thank you for taking out your time to share your story, your expertise with my audience. I want you to have the last word, so the floor is yours.
Wow, that was a lot. I want to make sure I get that mail to M.A.N because we need to have another conversation about that one.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Let me do social media like this. Anybody that want to reach me, they can reach me at www.nathanielxross.com. And that has all my social media and everything, email, phone number, etc. Right? And all my social media is on there as well. But to get to that last thought, I leave this last thought. Life is short. Life is short. Take the time to enjoy each other's company and experiences. And it doesn't matter how old you are or how young you are, how old you are. Enjoy those experiences because that's what life is made up of, experiences. So that's what I would say. The relationships. Take advantage of those relationships because life is short.
All right. We can't end it no better than that. To my listeners, thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. I'm your host, Earnest James, and here we believe that the relationship between our dad and the daughter is one of the most important relationships in a young woman's life, and therefore, we are here to battle against the narrative of the fatherless daughter and the absent father. And so once again, thank you guys for tuning in to the Girl Dad Discussions. Until next time, you guys be blessed. Thanks for listening to the Girl Dad Discussions podcast with E. James. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and subscribe to our podcast on all your podcast listening platforms. Also, don't keep it to yourself, but share it with someone else. That the Girl Dad Discussions podcast is on the air. Until next time, be blessed.
Hey, it's Alex
and Bella
from Let's Not Sugarcoat It, a podcast where each week we bring you real, raw, and unfiltered conversations.
Our guests share their lives' journeys in entrepreneurship, relationship, parenthood, and much, much more
in an authentic and raw way where no one sugarcoats life's messes and successes.
Make sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or any of your favorite podcast apps and tune in every Wednesday for new episodes.